Time now for Trivia Tracks with yours truly, Price Robertson. Sponsored by Beth Smith and Edward Jones and ProMed Ambulance Services. Known for his ferocity, tremendous leg strength, and extensive knowledge of wrestling, Joe Stecher is considered one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. The three-time world heavyweight champion was described by Lou Thesz as a wrestling god. The son of Bohemian immigrants, Stecher was born on April 4th, 1893, on a 400-acre farm in Dodge, Nebraska. The youngest of 8 children, Joe excelled in numerous sports as a youth. While the boys were still young, Frank Stecher enrolled his sons in a wrestling course at the local Fremont YMCA, and Joe's older brothers soon emerged as accomplished amateur grapplers. Joe's eldest brother, Louis, would earn a commission to Annapolis and as a lieutenant commander in the U.S. Navy, and was eventually recognized as a national intercollegiate light heavyweight wrestling champion. Moreover, Anton Stecher, known as Tony, was the premier wrestler in high school. As a result, Joe was determined to follow in his brother's footsteps. In 1909, as a high school senior at just age 16, he nearly defeated Doc Benjamin Roller, one of the world's top turn-of-the-century grapplers, in a hard-fought exhibition bout while Roller was touring the Midwest. He debuted professionally in 1912, as did brother Tony. In his first match, Joe defeated Bill O'Keefe. It soon became apparent that Joe, who was taller and heavier than his older brother, was also the clearly superior grappler. However, Tony possessed greater savvy for the business, and so he subsequently became Joe's trainer and co-manager, along with Joe Hetnemek, who had previously served as the town postmaster. Joe would not gain national awareness until attracting the attention of farmer Martin Burns, the former American heavyweight champion, who was also the mentor to the then-current world heavyweight wrestling champion Frank Gotch. In the following years, Stecher continued his ascent by defeating established grapplers like Jess Westergaard, Ad Santel, Bob Manigoff Sr., and Marin Plistina, all in straight falls, and all in 15 minutes or less. In 1915, Stecher defeated the reigning American heavyweight champion Charles Cutler to claim professional wrestling's World Heavyweight Championship. At just 22 years old, Joe Stecher became the youngest world champion in history up to that point. Yet he remained in the vast shadow of his idol Frank Gotch, who retired a couple of years earlier without ever losing the title, and was thus still acknowledged by the public as pro wrestling's true champion. A match between Stecher and Gotch was arranged for July 18, 1916, but Gotch's health deteriorated after suffering a broken fibula in his leg while wrestling Bob Manigoff as part of a traveling circus. He died in December 1917. Meanwhile, Joe Stecher began another rivalry with Ed Strangler Lewis, who was counted out when he fell out of the ring and hit his head on a chair. The two faced off again on July 4, 1916, where they grappled for nearly 5 hours before the match was finally ruled a draw. After a third draw in 1918, Lewis had achieved notoriety by yen managing to avoid being pinned by Stecher, though he was widely criticized for employing a defensive, avoiding style, while Stecher was usually the dominant aggressor. Nevertheless, it was Stecher who would win the majority of the contests over the next 5 years. Stecher retired in 1934, but later suffered an emotional breakdown and was institutionalized for 30 years. In 1948, Tony Stecher became one of the founding fathers of the NWA. In the late 1930s, Lou Thesz met Joe Stecher during a wrestling tour in Minnesota. Thesz recalled that even after many years away from the sport, Stecher still retained his elite wrestling skills. Joe Stecher died on March 29, 1974, 6 days short of his 81st birthday. Till next time, I'm Price Robertson. Amazed by today's trivia? Then join me for Trivia Tracks weekdays at 6:45 on Everybody's Country Y95.